everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Math Queen, and in today's video I'm going to be doing numerical expressions with order of operations part 2. If you never already watched part 1, please watch it. It'll be linked in the description box below. And yeah, so in part 1, what we did was give a basic understanding of numerical expressions with order of operations, and basically how to solve, evaluate, and make your own numerical expression. But today, I'm going to be going more in depth and doing different sections. So, as you can see, we have parentheses since it's first in the order of operations. The order is parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So, we're going to start off with parentheses. Based on the description, we know parentheses is the first thing that comes in the order of operations. You must always solve what is in parentheses first. Keep that in mind. So, we have two examples here. The first one is 3 plus 5 minus 4, and the second one is 4 plus 6 plus 5 minus 5. So let's do the first one. We know we already need to solve what's in the parentheses, so we're going to do 3 plus 5, which is 8. And we already have what's in parentheses. Once you solve what's in the parentheses, you no longer have to keep on putting it in parentheses. Now it's its own lone number. So 3 plus 5 is 8, and we just add minus 4 here. And 8 minus 4 is 4. And that's our answer to the first problem. Now let's do a more difficult one. 4 plus 6 plus 5 minus 5. This time there's not two numbers in the parentheses, but 3. It doesn't matter which way you solve them, because you're going to get the same answer either way. 6 plus 5 plus 4 will get you the same thing as 4 plus 6 plus 5. So, let's solve it. We're going to do 4 plus 6. 4 plus 6 is 10. Let's write that here. 10 plus 5 is 15. So we already have what's in parentheses first. We can erase this. Now all we have is this minus 5 right here. So let's move it over here. 15 minus 5 is 10. And we solved our second one. Now that you have a basic understanding of how to do parentheses in the order of operations, let's move to exponents. Okay, so we're on exponents now. Exponents is the second order in the order of operations. Always solve the exponents after parentheses and before anything else. Now, before we start with some examples for exponents, some of you might not know what exponents are. So, let me teach you what exponents are really quick. I'll put a quick example. This is what an exponent looks like. The small number at the top is the exponent. Exponents basically tells you how much times you need to multiply the first number. So, if you see 5 to the power of 2, which is how you say it, that just means you do 5 times 5. If you see 6 to the power of 3, it's just 6 times 6 times 6. A lot of people get confused and think, oh, 6 times to the power of 3. Let me just do 6 times 3. But that's not how it works, because you're going to get the answer wrong. Or don't think 5 to the power of 2, 5 times 2. Because this is exponents, not multiplication, and we don't want to get confused. So just know when you see any small number on top of the first number, it means it's an exponent, and you always got to multiply the first number by the amount of times the top little number is. Now that you know what exponents are, let us do an example with exponents. Okay, we have two examples right here. Let's solve the first example. So on the first example, we have 2 to the power of 2 plus 6. Since I already talked to you about how to do exponents, we know 2 to the power of 2 is 4, because 2 times 2 equals 4. So now that we have the first one, we can cross this out and write 4. 4 plus 6 equals 10. That's the first one. our first numerical expression solved with order of operations exponents. Now let's do the second one. As you can see, we have parentheses here. Feel free to pause the video if you want to solve it yourself, and then you can come back and see what the answer is, or you can always just keep on watching in case you don't understand or you just want to see how to do it so you can do it yourself. Now, a lot of people might think, oh, let's do the exponents first. But let's go back to the order of operations. Parentheses is first, and if we go back to the parentheses, it says we must always solve what is in parentheses first. So let's solve what's in parentheses. 3 plus 2 is 5. Now 5 to the power of 2 is 5 times 5, not 5 times 2, 5 times 5. So to solve this, just do 5 times 5. And if you don't already know, 5 times 5 is 25. So we're going to add 25. This is our final question or answer. And if you're confused on how we got this, 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 to the power of 2, which is 5 times 5, is 25. So in the end, we have 5 plus 25, which equals 30. Now, that wasn't too hard, was it? Now that we finished exponents, let's move on to multiplication. Okay, great. Now we're on the third order of operation, multiplication. So let's read the description. Multiplication goes with division, so you can solve either one of them first. Just make sure you solve them after parentheses and exponents. Now, if you're confused, let me show you a quick example. Let's say you have 5 times 2 divided by 5. It doesn't matter which one you do first. If you do 5 divided by 5, which equals 1, and then you do 1 times 2, you're going to get 2. But if you do 5 times 2, which is 10, 5 times 2, and then you do 10 divided by 5, you're going to get 2 anyways. So that's what it means when it says you can solve multiplication or division first. Okay, we have our 2 examples here. The first one is 5 times 2 plus 3, and the second one is 3 to the power of 2 minus 6 times 4. Let's start with the first one, as always. Let's move this to the side. So, the first one is 5 times 2 plus 3. Now, this is where it gets confusing to a lot of people. A lot of people might solve 2 plus 3 first. 2 plus 3 is 5, and 5 times 5 is 25. But that's where it's wrong. In the order of operations, multiplication and division come first before addition. So you can't solve with the addition first, you gotta do multiplication first. We can do 5 times 2, which is 10, and drop down the plus 3, which gets us 13, and that's the answer to our first numerical expression with multiplication. You see the difference? If you were to do 2 plus 3 times 5, you would get 25. And that wouldn't be correct because addition doesn't come before multiplication. So we do multiplication first, then addition, and we get it right. Now, let's move on to the second problem. In the second one, we have 3 to the power of 2 minus 6 times 4, which is a little bit more difficult. So let's solve it. Now, as you already know, I've put this in every single problem, but feel free to pause this and solve it on your own or continue watching. So, we already know that just because we're in the multiplication doesn't mean we do multiplication first. We gotta do what's in the parentheses, which is 3 to the power of 2 minus 6. Now, back to exponents, we know 3 to the power of 2 means 3 times 3. Not 3 times 2. So, with that said, 3 to the power of 2, which is 3 times 3, equals 9. So we can already bring down the 9. And now we have minus 6. 9 minus 6 equals 3. So our answer to what's inside parentheses is 3. We still have this times 4 out here. So we're going to do 3 times 4. If you only know, 3 times 4 equals 12. So that's our answer to the second problem. Now that we finished with multiplication, let's move on to the next problem. Now, division is the third or fourth order of operation. And if you're wondering why I said third or fourth, it's because division goes with multiplication, so you can do any one of them first, says the description. So that's why division can be the third or the fourth, it doesn't really matter. So let's solve some problems that go with the division. Now we have two problems here, just like every single other thing we've solved. We have 2 to the power of 3 times 2 divided by 8, and 5 times 5 divided by 5. So let's do the first one. We already know to solve what's in parentheses first. Oh, and I forgot to say this. And this just counts for every other thing we do from the rest of my videos. You can always pause the video. Now, 2 to the power of 3 with exponents is the same thing as 2 times 2 times 2. And there's 3 2's, not as we normally did, 2 2's. So 2 times 2 is 4. And 4 times 2 is 8. So that's what's in the parentheses. Or that's not in parentheses, but that's what the exponent is. 2 to the power of 3 is 8. Now we have, in the parentheses, we still have times 2. So we can just do 8 times 2. And if you don't know, it's 16. So in the parentheses, we have 16. And then we just have divided by 8. And like I said earlier, since 16 is its own number, we don't need to put parentheses around it anymore. So now all we have is 16 divided by 8. If you don't already know what 16 divided by 8 is, it's 2. Because 8 times 2 is 16, so 16 divided by 8 is 2, or 16 divided by 2 is 8. And that's the answer to the first problem. Now, let's do the second problem. Let's move it over here. Okay, so we have 5 times 5 divided by 5. If you look back at the description, it says division goes with multiplication, so you can do any one of them first. So, if you were to do 5 divided by 5 times 5, you'd get the same answer as 5 times 5 divided by 5. So, let's just start this already. 5 times 5 is 25. And 25 divided by 5 equals 5. See, that was so easy. And if you were to do it the other way, 5 divided by 5 times 5, it's the same thing. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 1 times 5 equals 5. So see, you get the same answer either way. Boom, we just did division. Simple. We just have 2 more things to go until we just learned the whole order of operations and how to solve it. Now we're on to addition. On the description, it says addition and subtraction go together, so you can do either one first. Make sure when solving, you go from left to right. Example, you want to go 1 plus 2 minus 5, which equals negative 2. Don't do it backwards and go 5 minus 2 plus 1. Because if you do your math, 5 minus 2, 3 plus 1 is 4. And you get 2 different answers, which you do not want people to get confused with. Boom, we're on addition. Based on the description, addition and subtraction go together, so you can do either one first. Make sure when solving, you go from left to right. For example, you want to go 1 plus 2 minus 5, which equals negative 2. Don't go backwards and go 5 minus 2 plus 1. Because if you do your math, 1 plus 2 minus 5 is negative 2, but 5 minus 2 is 3 plus 1, which is 4. And you just have two different answers now, which is going to get people confused. So you don't want to do that. That's why we say you go from left to right, not right to left. Now let's get some examples going. Now let's do these examples. The first one, 2 minus 1 to the power of 1 plus 5. This is easy. Let's solve what's in parentheses first, because that's the number one rule. 2 minus 1 to the power of 1 is what's in parentheses. Now, with the exponent, 1 times 1 obviously is 1, because anything times the number 1 will always be itself. Example, 7 times 1 is always going to be 7. 1 million times 1 is always going to be 1 million. So we just have 2 minus 1, which is 1. Now we have the plus 5 over here, so we're just going to drop that down. And our answer is 6. Now let's do the second problem. In the second problem, we have 3 to the power of 2 times 3 plus 3 minus 3. That's a lot of 3's, so don't get confused, please. So we always got to solve what's in parentheses first, so let's do it. 3 to the power of 2 is the same thing as 3 times 3, which I think we already know. So 3 times 3 is 9. So we can erase this exponent right here and just turn it into a 9 because we already know it. 9 times 3, if you don't already know, is 27. So we solved what's in parentheses. So let's erase all of this and just write 27. So that's what's in the parentheses. As I already said before, since 27 is a lone number, we don't have to put it in parentheses anymore, so let's just remove the parentheses. And now, all we have is 3 plus 3, or 27 plus 3 minus 3. This is a really confusing equation for some people. They might think, oh, let's do the 3 minus 3 and then plus 27, which would work, but it's just confusing to do it backwards, so I suggest you do it forwards. 27 plus 3 is 30, and 30 minus 3 is 27. So we basically solved the equation already. It would work if you did 27 minus 3, which would be 24, and then add 3 again, which would be 27. If I were to go the other way and go 3 minus 3 plus 27, that would get us a really deep negative number, which is why you go from left to right. 27 plus 3 minus 3. And we just finished addition. Good job, guys. Let's move on to the next one, and the final one as well. Now we are on the last order of operations, which is subtraction. So on the description, I'm really sorry, it's kind of cut off a bit. It says subtraction and addition go together. So you do either one first. Make sure when that's supposed to be solving, you go from left to right. I've had to move some things around while doing this video, so that's why some things might be cut off. So let's put some examples into this. Let's solve the last two equations of the video. So the first one we have is 3 minus 3 times 2. We already know you don't do times 2 first, but we solve in the parentheses. So 3 minus 3 is 0. And all we have is times 2, so 0 times 2. So 0